5 questions to ask them when they want you back. Stoicism. Picture this. It's 2 a.m., your phone lights up, and there it is, the message you thought would never come. I made a mistake. I want you back. Your heart races. Your mind floods with memories, and suddenly, 2 years of healing feels like it could crumble in an instant. But here's what the ancient Stoics knew that we often forget. The most important conversations aren't the ones we have with others. They're the ones we have with ourselves. I'm going to share 5 powerful questions rooted in Stoic philosophy that will help you navigate this emotional minefield with clarity, wisdom, and unshakable inner strength. By the end of this video, you'll have a framework that protects your peace while making decisions from a place of reason, not just raw emotion. But first, let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote in his Meditations how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does. But what happens when that neighbor is someone who once held your heart? 2,000 years ago, Stoic philosophers faced the same human struggles we do today. They understood that when someone from our past returns, we're not just dealing with that person, we're dealing with our own attachment to outcomes, our fear of loss, and our desire for validation. Let me share Sarah's story, a viewer who wrote to me last month. Sarah had spent 3 years building herself up after a painful breakup. She'd found her confidence, pursued her dreams, created boundaries. Then one Tuesday morning, her ex reached out, not with a casual, "Hey," but with a full confession. "I realize now what I lost. I've changed. Can we try again?" Sarah felt everything at once: hope, fear, anger, love. Sound familiar? The Stoics would say Sarah was experiencing what they called phantasia, cataleptic impressions that seem so real and urgent that we mistake them for absolute truth. But impressions aren't facts. They're just impressions. Today, we're going to arm you with 5 questions that cut through the emotional fog and help you see clearly. Because the right decision isn't always the one that feels good in the moment. It's the one that serves your highest good in the long run. Before we dive in, let me quickly share why I'm passionate about this topic. I've spent over a decade studying Stoic philosophy, and I've seen firsthand how these ancient principles transform modern relationships. I've helped thousands of people, through my coaching practice, navigate these exact situations. More importantly, I've been where you might be right now. I've felt that intoxicating mix of hope and terror when someone from my past returned. I've made decisions from my wounded ego, and I've made decisions from my centered self. The difference in outcomes was, well, life-changing. Here's what we'll cover today. Question 1. What has fundamentally changed? We'll explore how to distinguish between surface-level promises and genuine transformation. Question 2. What am I seeking to heal? This one's about you, not them. We'll uncover the difference between healthy reconciliation and trauma bonding. Question 3. Can I accept them as they are right now? The Stoic principle of accepting reality while maintaining your standards. Question 4. What would I do if fear wasn't a factor? Removing emotional static to hear your inner wisdom. Question 5. Does this align with who I'm becoming? The most important question of all, about your future self. Each question comes with specific follow-up inquiries, red flags to watch for, and practical exercises. Stick with me. By the end, you'll have a clear framework for any situation like this. Question 1. What has fundamentally changed? Let's start with the foundation. When someone returns, they almost always lead with change. I'm different now. I've grown. I understand what I did wrong. But Epictetus, who went from slave to one of history's greatest teachers, understood something profound about human nature. People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of things. The question isn't whether they say they've changed, it's whether their fundamental view of themselves, you, and relationships has actually shifted. Follow-up questions to ask yourself. 1.1. What specific behaviors caused our relationship to end? Write them down. Not the big, Vague things like they were selfish or they didn't communicate. Get specific. Did they consistently cancel plans last minute? Did they withdraw affection during conflict? Did they make unilateral decisions that affected you both? 1.2. What evidence do they provide of change beyond words? Talk is cheap, even sincere talk. What have they actually done differently in their life since you separated? Have they gone to therapy? Changed their friend group? Developed new habits? The Stoics believed in praxis, that wisdom must be lived, not just spoken. 1.3. How do they speak about their role in our problems? Listen carefully here. Do they take specific ownership or do they speak in generalities? Do they blame circumstances, timing, or their past? Do they acknowledge the impact of their actions on you? Or focus mainly on their own suffering? Real-world example. Jake reached out to Lisa after 2 years, claiming he'd worked on himself. When Lisa asked specifically what that meant, he said he'd been going to therapy. Good start. But when she asked what he'd learned about why he used to shut down during arguments, he said, "I guess I just wasn't ready for a serious relationship back then." Notice the difference between "I learned I shut down because I was afraid of abandonment," and "I've been practicing staying present during difficult conversations," versus "I wasn't ready." One shows genuine self-awareness and skill development. The other is just an excuse with a bow on top. The red flag test? If their explanation for change focuses more on external circumstances than internal work, proceed with extreme caution. "I was going through a hard time," or "I was young," aren't evidence of growth. They're explanations for why growth didn't happen then. The green light indicators. They can articulate specific patterns they've changed. They acknowledge the impact on you without making it about their guilt. They've maintained changes consistently over time, not just since deciding they want you back. They demonstrate new skills, not just new insights. Your homework for this question? Create 2 lists. List 1, the specific problematic patterns that existed. List 2, the specific evidence they've provided of change for each pattern. Be brutally honest. If list 2 is mostly empty or vague, you have your answer about this question. Remember, you're not being harsh. You're being wise. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one." The same applies here. Waste no more time hoping they've changed. Look for evidence that they have. Question 2. What am I seeking to heal? Now we turn inward. This might be the most challenging question, because it requires absolute honesty with yourself. When someone from our past returns, we often think we're responding to them. But we're actually responding to our own unfinished business. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." But sometimes, we haven't properly ended the previous chapter. We're still carrying wounds, regrets, or fantasies that color how we see their return. Follow-up questions for deep self-examination. 2.1. What felt unresolved when our relationship ended? This isn't about whether you had closure conversations. It's about what still felt incomplete in your heart. Did you feel like you never got to show them your best self? Did it end right when you thought things were getting good? Do you feel like you gave up too easily? Write this out. Our minds can trick us, but our hands don't lie when we're writing from the heart. 2.2. What story have I been telling myself about our relationship? We all create narratives. Maybe yours is, "We were perfect together, but the timing was wrong." Or, "They were my soulmate, but they weren't ready." Or, "I could have made it work if I'd just been more patient." These stories aren't necessarily false, but they're also not necessarily complete truths. They're ways we make sense of pain. The Stoics would call this prosos, the practice of examining our own thoughts and motivations, without judgment, but with clarity. 2.3. What would accepting that chapter as complete look like? Here's a powerful exercise. Imagine you could wave a magic wand and feel completely at peace with how that relationship ended. What would you need to believe about yourself, them, and what happened? What would you need to forgive or release? Often we realize we're not seeking to heal the relationship. We're seeking to heal our own sense of worth, our fear of abandonment, or our regret about choices we made. The trauma bond check. This is crucial. Sometimes what feels like love is actually trauma bonding, the intense connection formed through cycles of pain and relief, conflict and resolution. Signs you might be dealing with trauma bonding. You felt more alive during the dramatic moments than the peaceful ones. You find yourself missing the chaos as much as the connection. You believe you understand them in a way no one else can, because you've seen them at their worst. You feel addicted to the intensity of the relationship pattern. If any of these resonate, their return isn't offering healing. It's offering familiar pain dressed up as love. The healthy healing check. Healthy reasons to consider reconciliation. You've both genuinely grown and want to create something new together. The core incompatibilities that caused problems have been addressed. You can imagine a relationship with them that's peaceful, not just passionate. You're not trying to prove anything or complete an old story. A story of distinction. Maya's ex returned after 3 years, and she felt that familiar pull. But when she honestly examined what she was seeking to heal, she realized she was still trying to prove she was worthy of being chosen by someone who had originally chosen to leave. That's not healing. That's seeking validation from the person who wounded you. It's like asking someone who broke your arm to be your physical therapist. On the other hand, David's ex returned, and when he examined his motivations, he realized he genuinely missed their friendship and intellectual connection. He wasn't trying to heal old wounds. He had already done that work. He was simply open to creating something new if it served both their growth. Your reflection exercise. Write a letter to yourself from the perspective of your wisest, most healed self. What would that version of you say about this situation? What would they want you to remember about your worth, your growth, and your future? Then ask, am I seeking to heal with this person, or am I seeking to heal from this person? The first might be worth exploring. The second is a recipe for repeated pain. Question 3. Can I accept them as they are right now? This question cuts straight to the heart of Stoic wisdom. Epictetus taught that suffering comes from wanting reality to be different than it is. When someone returns, we often fall in love with their potential again, not their present reality. But here's what I've learned. You cannot love someone into being the person you need them to be. You can only love the person they actually are, right now, and hope they choose to grow. The deeper questions. 3.1. If they never changed another thing about themselves, could I be genuinely happy in this relationship? Not just content, happy. Not just hopeful that things would improve, satisfied with exactly what they bring to the table today. This is hard because when someone returns, they often come bearing promises of change. But promises are about the future. You need to decide based on the present. 3.2. What am I secretly hoping to fix or change about them? Be honest. Are you imagining conversations where you finally help them understand something? Scenarios where your love heals their wounds? Moments where they become more emotionally available, more responsible, more different? The Stoics would say this is trying to control what's outside your control, and it never ever works. 3.3. How do they handle disagreement and conflict right now? This is one of the most telling questions. People can change their habits, their circumstances, even their goals. But how they handle stress and conflict, that's usually pretty consistent. Pay attention to how they responded when you initially questioned their return. Did they get defensive? Did they try to rush you into a decision? Did they respect your need for time and space? This tells you everything about what a renewed relationship would actually look like. The acceptance versus settling distinction. Acceptance doesn't mean settling for less than you deserve. It means seeing clearly what someone offers and making a conscious choice about whether that works for your life. Here's the difference. Settling, I wish they were more emotionally available, but maybe that's just not who they are, and I should be grateful they want me back. Accepting, they're not particularly emotionally available, and I can see that clearly. For me to be happy, I need a partner who can go deep emotionally. This isn't a judgment of their worth as a person. It's just not a match for what I need. The present reality exercise. Imagine spending a week with this person exactly as they are today, not who they promised to become, not who they were at their best moments in the past, who they are right now. Walk through different scenarios. A stressful day at work. How do they support you? A disagreement about something important. How do they handle it? A social situation where you need them to show up as your partner. What do they bring? A moment when you need emotional intimacy. What can they actually provide? If you find yourself thinking, but they'll change, or it will be different this time, pause. Those thoughts are about the future. This question is about the present. Red flags in this area. You find yourself making excuses for their current behavior. You're banking on potential rather than reality. You feel like you need to convince yourself they're good enough. You're already planning how to help them grow. Green lights. You genuinely appreciate who they are today. Their current way of being adds value to your life. You're not trying to fix or change them. You can imagine being content with exactly this level of growth from them. A reality check story. Tom's ex, Sarah, returned, promising she'd learn to communicate better. When Tom really looked at their recent interactions, he noticed she still interrupted him, still got defensive when questioned, and still seemed to think that acknowledging a problem was the same as changing it. He realized he was falling in love with her awareness of the problems, not her actual solutions to them. Awareness is just the first step, not the destination. The Stoic approach? See people as they are, love them as they are, or lovingly let them go. But don't torture yourself trying to love them as you wish they were. Question 4. What would I do if fear wasn't a factor? Fear is often the invisible hand guiding our decisions. Fear of being alone, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of missing out on the one, fear of starting over, fear of being hurt again. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." But fear lives in imagined futures, both the ones we desperately want and the ones we desperately want to avoid. This question isn't about being reckless. It's about removing fear's static so you can hear your inner wisdom clearly. The fear inventory. 4.1. What am I afraid will happen if I say yes? Get specific. Not just, I'm afraid of getting hurt. What kind of hurt? Are you afraid they'll leave again? Afraid you'll lose yourself in the relationship again? Afraid you'll waste more time? Afraid your friends and family will think you're foolish? Write these fears down, all of them, even the ones that seem silly or shallow. 4.2. What am I afraid will happen if I say no? Again, be specific. Afraid you'll never find love again? Afraid you're throwing away your soulmate? Afraid you'll regret this forever? Afraid they'll find happiness with someone else and you'll be the one who could have been? 4.3. What would I do if I truly believed I deserved love, respect, and happiness regardless of this decision? This one hits different. When we operate from scarcity, believing this might be our only chance at love, we make desperate decisions. When we operate from abundance, knowing we're worthy of good love, we make wise ones. The Stoic reframe. Here's what the Stoics understood. Most of our fears are about things we can't control anyway. We can't control whether someone will hurt us again. We can't control whether we'll regret a decision. We can't control whether this is our only chance at happiness. But we can control how we prepare ourselves to handle whatever comes. We can control the standards we set. We can control how we respond to outcomes. When you remove fear from the equation, what remains is usually your truth. The without fear exercise. Imagine you had a magic shield that protected you from all emotional harm. Or imagine you knew with certainty that you would find love and happiness regardless of this decision. What would you choose then? Often people discover that without fear they would set much higher standards for what they accept, trust their gut feelings more, care less about other people's opinions, focus more on their own growth and happiness. Case study in fear versus clarity. Jessica's ex returned with grand gestures and promises. Jessica's fear said, "You're 34. Most of your friends are married. Your ex is here and willing. Take it." But when Jessica imagined making the decision without fear, she realized she would want to take things incredibly slowly, maintain her own space, and see consistent action over many months before considering real commitment. Fear wanted her to grab the offer quickly before it disappeared. Clarity wanted her to evaluate it thoroughly to see if it was actually worth having. Common fear-based thinking patterns. This is my last chance. I'm getting older and should be grateful. Better the devil I know than the devil I don't. What if they're perfect for someone else, but I'm just not seeing it? Everyone else thinks I should give them another chance. Clarity-based thinking patterns. I deserve someone who chooses me consistently. My worth isn't determined by relationship status. I can handle whatever outcome comes from being true to myself. I trust my ability to create happiness in my life. Other people's opinions don't determine my path. The gut check. When you strip away the fear, the analysis, the pros and cons lists, what does your body tell you? Does the thought of being with them create expansion in your chest or contraction? Do you feel energized or drained when you imagine your future together? Your body often knows before your mind catches up. The Stoics understood that wisdom isn't just intellectual, it's embodied. Your fear-free decision framework. Acknowledge each fear without judgment. Remind yourself of your inherent worth and resilience. Ask, what would self-respect choose? Trust that you can handle any outcome. Make the decision that feels most aligned with who you're becoming. Remember, there are no perfect decisions, only decisions made with integrity. When you choose from clarity instead of fear, you can live with the outcomes, whatever they are. Question 5. Does this align with who I'm becoming? This is the most important question of all. Because it's not about your past or even your present. It's about your future self. Seneca wrote, "Every man is in bondage to hope or fear." But there's a third option. Alignment with your highest potential. Who are you becoming? What kind of life are you creating? What values are you living by? The becoming questions. 5.1. What kind of person do I want to be in my next relationship? Not what kind of relationship do you want. What kind of person do you want to be in it? Do you want to be someone who compromises your values for love? Someone who ignores red flags because you're afraid of being alone? Someone who accepts less than they deserve? Or do you want to be someone who maintains their standards, communicates clearly, and chooses partners who enhance rather than diminish their growth? 8.2. What patterns am I trying to break in my life? Maybe it's people-pleasing. Maybe it's choosing potential over reality. Maybe it's staying in situations that drain your energy because they're familiar. Maybe it's letting others determine your worth. Going back to an old relationship can either be a conscious choice that supports your growth or an unconscious return to old patterns. The difference is everything. 5.3. 5 years from now, what would I want to tell my current self about this decision? Your future self has perspective you don't have right now. They can see how this decision rippled through your life. They know which choice led to growth and which led to stagnation. What would they want you to know? What would they thank you for choosing? What would they wish you had done differently? The alignment test. Here's a powerful exercise. Write down the 5 most important values in your life. Things like honesty, growth, adventure, peace, creativity, service, whatever matters most to you. Now honestly assess, does rekindling this relationship support these values or compromise them? If someone truly supports your becoming, being with them should make you more yourself, not less. You should feel more creative, more confident, more aligned with your purpose, not more anxious, more confused, or more willing to shrink yourself to fit their expectations. The growth versus comfort distinction. Sometimes we mistake familiar patterns for destiny. We keep coming back to each other. It must be meant to be. But what if you keep coming back because it's comfortable? Not because it's right. Real love supports your becoming. It challenges you to be your best self while accepting you as you are. It adds to your life rather than asking you to subtract from yourself. A story of alignment. Rachel's ex came back just as she was hitting her stride in a new career, developing healthier habits, and building a strong support network. When she asked herself if being with him aligned with who she was becoming, she realized it would mean moving backward geographically, emotionally, and professionally. That didn't make him a bad person or their connection less real, but it did make it wrong for this chapter of her life. Your becoming visualization. Close your eyes and imagine yourself 5 years from now living your best life. You're healthy, fulfilled, surrounded by people who celebrate your growth. You've learned to trust yourself completely. Now imagine that version of yourself giving you advice about this situation. What do they say? How do they want you to prioritize? What do they wish you understood about your own worth? The final question. Does saying yes to this person mean saying no to some other possibility for your life? Does it mean saying no to the person you're becoming? There's no right answer, only your answer. But make sure it's truly yours. Not fears, not society's, not even love's. Make sure it's aligned with the fullest expression of who you're meant to be. Your decision framework. Past. What has fundamentally changed? Healing. What am I seeking to heal? Present. Can I accept them as they are right now? Clarity. What would I do if fear wasn't a factor? Future. Does this align with who I'm becoming? If you can answer these 5 questions with complete honesty and the answers all point in the same direction, follow that guidance. If the answers are mixed, that's valuable information too. It might mean you need more time, more information, or more inner work before making this decision. The Stoic conclusion. Remember what Marcus Aurelius taught. Confine yourself to the present. This moment, this choice, this opportunity to act with wisdom, that's all you ever really have. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to make the next right choice from a place of clarity, self-respect, and alignment with your highest good. Whether you choose to explore this reconnection or to lovingly decline, do it as the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be when you were with them. Before you make any decision, work through these 5 questions completely. Write out your answers. Sit with them. Share them with someone you trust. And remember, choosing yourself is never selfish. It's the foundation of any healthy relationship you'll ever have. If this video helped you gain clarity, please like it and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Subscribe for more content on building inner strength and creating relationships that truly serve your growth. What other relationship situations would you like me to address from a Stoic perspective? Let me know in the comments below.